Good morning, everyone. I am your host, David Millington, the Director of Education at Next Level Purchasing, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining today's webinar. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, and it is indeed a pleasure to share my insights with, with such illustrious professionals. I hope that the next 30 minutes or so would be a fun one for you, and it would be a very, very uh, thought provoking experience for you and would help you all in your careers for 2019 and onwards. So, in today's webinar, and please, I urge you all to put on your seatbelts because I had my coffee and I'm going to be very intense. Okay, it's not a lot of slides, but each one is going to be power packed. So we always go back to what is our core purpose as procurement professionals, and we reflect internally and we reflect outwardly, reflect internally into our personal situation. We reflect internally into our personal capacities, and we look outwardly to our key stakeholders and try our best and do our best actually to understand how well are we achieving and realizing our mandates, our purpose, our mission as procurement professionals. To what degree are we raising the bar and we closing the gap to be world-class procurement professionals? And if we are indeed world-class procurement professionals, then what is the next level? That could we create another level? Could we open the space to new innovation? So back to the core purpose. As procurement professionals, we are here to perform a threefold mandate: manage spend, support operations, and to protect our organizations from risk and from the impact of risk. And I have four basic questions that I would really like us to internalize for the 2019. Are we or are you, right? Are you tactical only, or strategically balanced in your approach and in your mindsets? How respected are you in your organizations? Do you offer strategic insight to your counterparts, to your colleagues, and to the key stakeholders in your environment? Are your goals short-term only? And if we could take time and internalize that, make notes, so if you need the slides, we could provide the slides. But really, you know, have the answers to these four critical areas. It is incumbent, it is indispensable, it is absolutely necessary that we as procurement professionals have a better understanding of our environment, our supply chain environment, our procurement environment, and the landscape, the business landscape in which our organizations have to traverse on a daily basis. It is absolutely necessary. And I plead with you all to make this the number one priority for the next 3 years. The number one priority for the next 3 years, to really understand and refine our understanding of the business landscape in which our corporations exist. And back to and I'm going to walk us through a leadership systems thinking model that is the hallmark of the Association of Strategic Planning, which I happen to be a certified member of. And their model for systems thinking is based on 4 parameters: lead, think, plan, and act. Act or be acted upon. Act or be acted upon. So in the matter of lead, and to prepare ourselves to be effective procurement leaders, we have to, again, internalize in 3 critical parameters: our mental capacity, mind, our physical capability and ability to endure the challenges of 2019 and onwards. So mind, body, and spirit. And when I say spirit here, I refer to our plane of ethics and integrity and credibility. Do we have credibility in our organizations? Do we on a daily basis execute our functions based on core values? Do we understand the core values, and are we aligned to the core values of our organizations? So to measure ourselves, when I say mental capacity, skill sets are involved in our mental capacity. Do we have the skill sets to execute our functions on a world-class level? Do we have the skill sets to execute our functions on a continuous improvement plane? Do we have the physical capacity to do what it takes to acquire those skills assets and to deploy them effectively in our workspace? Do we have the physical capacity and capability to endure the challenges of this year? And do we have the credibility and integrity? So if any one of these 3 parameters are compromised, then we are compromised as leaders and in our ability to lead the procurement function or any function, as a matter of fact. So this is a very, very, very important undertaking. And if any one of these areas are compromised, what are our strategies and our tactics to bring improvements into any one of those dimensions? So essentially, mind, body, spirit is about balance, to be balanced as leaders, to be balanced as procurement professionals. The more balanced we are, the better decisions we would make, the more effective we would be at our job functions. And then the matter of the ability of procurement professionals and professionals in any discipline to be able to think and to think strategically, to be able to sit at the table where the senior leaders sit and to collaborate with them and to conduct internal and external audits of the business landscape and the landscape of the supply chain. So I'll change that. The supply chain landscape. Excuse my spelling. Oops. So what is going on there? Yes, so this is very important. And to leverage, to understand the basic SWOT, what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a corporation, as an organization, and then to do a SWOT on our, I recommend, and this has been always a practice of mine, to do a SWOT analysis on our procurement function. Look at our procurement function. Let us examine them early in the year. What are the strengths? What do we do well? What are our areas of vulnerability? Right? Are we lacking skill sets? Is our technology a flaw with us? Our ability to manage effectively the demand-supply dynamics? Is that a weakness of ours? Have we, for the last couple of years, have we been unable to really keep a lid on cost? So to understand as a procurement function itself, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Also, there's the Porter's five forces, right? Which it's in, this is available in the body of knowledge, the SPSM body of knowledge, the Porter's, the five Porter's five forces. These are the five forces that bear down on an organization, and to really understand where you measure up and where we are, or you do some benchmarking where other organizations or competitors are relative to those five forces. Very, very important. And to conduct environmental scanning, to be aware, scanning our environment, to be aware of our procurement function. How are we positioned? What's our situation as a procurement function in our organizations, in the supply chain, and what is the position of our organizations in the supply chain? So environmental scanning, it looks at the sociodemographic factors that impact organizations. It also looks at the political trends. We see we have trade wars, and this is impacting how procurement functions would operate, and how many of us are feeling the immediate shock of potential trade wars. The economic parameters or factors that affect our organization and our supply chains, the ecological mindsets and shifts that affect our supply chains, the technological, the industry shifts, and of course, most and foremost, the shifts of our customers. And really, I always say that our organizations exist to do what? To create value for our customers, to meet their requirements, to meet their specifications, and to create value for our stakeholders. And the sooner in this year, 2019, we could refine and really understand what our customer requirements are, then we'll be in a better position to select our suppliers, to manage our suppliers' performance relative to those specifications and requirements of our customers. Very important. So to understand, and these are essentially the core factors of our environment as a procurement function and as a corporation. So internally in an organization, we have many of these forces as well, right? We have people, so there's socio-demographic, and we have a hierarchy. So there is a socio-demographic structure in our organizations. In our organizations, there's a fiscal or what I should say, economic situation. There's internal politics, right? And we deal with our technologies internally. And their competitive forces internally, whether if we are silo-driven, then we have different departments competing for the resources. So to understand these factors and how they affect the procurement function, and to understand as a procurement leader or someone in a position of leadership in the procurement function, we have to ask ourselves three questions. If we're looking at this on our department level and our organization as a whole, where are the trends in these dimensions that I mentioned? Political, economic, socio-demographic, ecological, economic, industry, customer, competitive. How are these trends? What are the current trends? The next question is, how do they impact our organizations? How do these trends and these factors impact our organizations? And then the third question is, what are our strategies to deal with those impacts? If they're negative impacts, what are our risk mitigation strategies? You see, we go back to what? Protecting our organizations from risk. If they are positive trends, how are we going to leverage our capabilities to capitalize on those positive trends? So, and then systems thinking in couple of the webinars, I spoke about systems thinking and the science of systems thinking, where we look at our departments and we look at our organizations as a whole, and we look at our supply chain, our value stream as a whole. So the entire value stream or value chain it goes from the suppliers who deliver inputs to your conversion or manufacturing processes, to your manufacturing process, to your logistics functions, who ship to your customers. So essentially, this is the supply chain or the value stream, and the SIPOC methodology. Suppliers, you assess your suppliers, you assure, and our job is to ensure that we have capable suppliers who deliver what? The inputs, SIPOC, who deliver critical inputs and raw materials to your processes. So we understand our process capability internally. And we understand the outputs. The outputs are products and services that would be shipped to the customers as per very, very strict specifications and requirements. So the better we are as procurement professionals in terms of understanding this SIPOC methodology and understanding the entire value chain and the requirements and the capabilities of all the actors and all the key stakeholders in the value chain, and our ability to collaborate. So for 2019, let us be procurement professionals who have the capacity and the aptitude to collaborate upstream to our suppliers, downstream to our customers, involve them in our decisions. So one of the best methods of collaboration, and this is one of the best practices that's highlighted in our 14 purchasing best practice course, is the selection of a commodity team, where we would involve the manufacturing folks, the finance folks, logistics folks, maybe our customers, and maybe some of our critical suppliers. We make a team, and the whole idea is to make decisions around the cost of products and the quality of products and the delivery standards. So leveraging, if we don't have a commodity team, let us look at this. And on the matter of best practices, let us select a few best practices for 2019 and deploy them, and to measure them, how well and how effective they have been. And let us, for 2019, over a 3-year period, let us put together some type of a strategic plan. So we move, let us raise the bar from, if we are strictly and primarily tactical and reactive procurement functions, let us be more strategic in how we operate. Let us find out what are the best practices of formulating those strategies. You have many organizations that are non-profit that could help you in your functions to formulate and to create a more strategically focused procurement function. I am a strategic planning professional certified, so if you need help, this is why we're here, and this is why NLPA is very passionate about seeing you succeed, so I could help you all with such an endeavor. So the ability to lead, to think strategically, and to plan effectively. So if we are compromised from a leadership standpoint, and let us say from the leadership standpoint, we are compromised with our ethics and our integrity, then I'll imagine how those affect our thought processes. Imagine how those affect our lens, right? In terms of what we see in the environment and how we see it. How delusional or how vile our view would be. And I can only imagine our plans. And I can imagine our action. So this is a critical chain: lead, think, plan, act, my friends. And when we act in response to our organization's situation, and we formulate a strong procurement strategy that's aligned to our corporate strategy. So the critical key here is alignment. value stream and value chain alignment and collaboration. And plan 3 years out. Every year is a reactive thing. So we have our plans for 3 years. So let us say we plan to be best practice focused. Then we would say, well, for year 1, we would deploy 4 best practices in conjunction with a commodity team. And in year 2, we deploy another 5 best practices, et cetera, et cetera. Year number 3, or maybe year number 2, we deploy some artificial intelligence capabilities, or maybe some blockchain elements. But to systematically plan this out in collaboration with a commodity team, you will be doing yourselves a very, 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 very good service. And then the act piece. So lead, think, plan, act. The act is act with strategic, conscious intent only. Strategic, conscious intent only. And we deploy our strategies with understanding the dynamics of change and the human element. And we leverage what we call the PDCA, plan, do, check, act in everything. We plan it. We plan, we do it, we check to see how well our plans were executed. If there were some deficiencies, we take the corrective action. If things went well, we understand the lessons learned. So plan, do, check, act. And then on to the next slide. This is how each one of these, the think, plan, act model, and the requirements of each one. So in think, we do external and, as I said, an internal assessment. In think, we understand our environment to see how our organization fits into the big picture. Yes, as procurement professionals, we have to understand this. If we want that respect at the table when companies form their strategy to have these capabilities, will put you right front and center where you should be. And then to plan the strategy formulation, formulating your strategic plan and operationalizing your plans. Then to act, get things done, align the organization, align your procurement function with your organization's overall strategic plan, and act on performance information where there are things that are, if things are going not according to plan, we act upon them. If things are going to plan, we act upon them as well. And then evaluate your strategic execution. So we get things done in this phase, and we make decisions and we make agreements. The next slide here, it focuses on those critical parameters that I spoke about, the trends, and to really understand and do some, I urge you all to do some professional development in 2019 in all of these critical parameters, to understand the socio-demographic trends, to understand your customer trends and customer trends in general, to understand the ecological shifts, the economic situation globally and locally, to really get a real in-depth understanding of the political trends and the trends of your industry, and to understand the science of competitive intel. What are your competitors up to? This is not only the work of the marketing and the sales and the product development and the R&D functions. It is your function as well as procurement professionals, because guess what? The sales, the R&D folks, the product development folks, the engineers, they're going to design products, and then they're going to come to us as procurement professionals and say, you need to procure this. A lot of times it happens after the fact. It happens after the fact. And then we have to pull our hair out. You all made a design and so on, so on, so. And these products, they're only 6 months supply, for example, in a region that's cost effective. And you quoted the customer a certain price. And now we have to make things happen and juggle. So we have to be up front and center early in those processes. So the matter of understanding innovation processes and product development processes is key. And I'll get into that soon. And to understand the mega trends that we exist in. So this is serious product development that we have to do. What are the current mega trends? right? And I leave this as an exercise for you all to go and do your research, understand what, not the trends, what are the modern global mega trends. And they have to do with people and resources, of course. All right, so I give you all an assignment. Now, in terms of the matter of, we talk about understanding our corporate mandate and aligning our procurement function. Well, this here is what I use on a regular basis. It is from the science of Hoshin planning. Hoshin, Hoshin planning. Very heavily used by Toyota, very heavily used by Hewlett Packard. Hewlett Packard in the 70s became masters of deploying the Hoshin planning. There's a software available. You could go online and type in www.planbase.com. They have the software for this. This I put together this in Excel. But if you want to automate these processes, I recommend you use the plan base. But if you look at this chart, we see at the top of it is a situation summary. So here we have a company, XYZ Hinge Corporation. And if you could read the slides, we see what their situation is. And this situational analysis comes from understanding those trends that we spoke about, right? The political, economic, socio-demographic, economic, ecological, industry, customer, technological, and so on. So the whole idea is to formulate a brief statement as to what the situation is, and to understand where does the procurement function fit into supporting the organization. As per mandate, supporting operations. Where do we fit in supporting our organization to realize our strategies relative to this top-level situation here? And if we look at initiative or key initiative or strategy number 1, right? You see Jason, Procurement Warehouse Operations Manager. You see how this here aligns the procurement function with the mandate of the CEO, which is to improve the responsiveness of door makers by providing hinges with a 2-day turnaround time. This is the overall strategy that the CEO is responsible for in response to the situation. You see where it says 0 on the CEO, the corporate mission, response to the situation. How could procurement and the logistics function support the CEO in this initiative, in that mission? You see initiative number 1. And you see the metrics on the side here, the performance metrics. Again, what gets managed, what gets measured, gets managed, gets done. We don't manage it if we don't measure it. So we have to have effective metrics. So if we take this high level here, number 1, okay, and we see Jason is responsible for assuring the corporation's customer satisfaction by continually delivering high quality hinges within a 2-day receipt of an order. These are his key metrics, his scorecard that he is responsible for. And then once you go here now, we take this departmental responsibility or key strategy, see number 1, and we break them into 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. We look at 1.1. Source materials for the manufacture of XYZ products. Assure no stockouts of raw materials. Who's responsible for that? The senior buyer, Sherry. And what are her metrics that she's going to be held accountable for? Cost of raw materials. You see it right here on the side here. And to make sure that there's 0 discrepancies with the raw materials. If Sherry does not meet her departmental mandate, then the procurement function in this case here is not meeting its mandate very well. All right, and this is going to affect the total cost of ownership. Okay, so right here we see how in this situation, how to align the procurement function with the overall corporate mandate. Simple as this, and to hold each other accountable. Right? Many organizations use organization chart. Yeah, that's nice. But if it's broken down like this, now we could assign accountability. Now for Sherry, we could have a dashboard. For Jason, we could have his master dashboard that has all of these key metrics. So the CEO could look and see how each one of his functions or her functions are operating, who is not meeting their requirements and who are meeting the requirements. If not meeting we see metrics that are out of line and certain sections are not performing up to standard, then we do the plan, do, check, act methodology to improve those processes. You plan a project, you do the project, you check to see how well that particular process improvement project corrected whatever the deficiencies that we see on the dashboard are. And so we check that, and then if there's a deficiency, we act upon it. And then for 2019, I urge you all, and this is the last slide, to be very, very, very strategic and to understand your organization's research and development process, your innovation process, and the product development process to make sure that we understand these mechanisms very, very, very clearly. And this is a framework that the Product Development and Management Association, PDMA, uses in terms of this is their body of knowledge right here. The slide was prepared by product innovation educators. Permission to use this. I'm also certified by the PDMA as a product development professional. So if you all need some help with that and how it relates, and it does tremendously to the procurement function, shoot me an email, give me a call, let me know. But this is based on a stage gate process where we have stage one, right? We look at the stages here. Stage one, it would be to identify opportunities after doing the environmental scanning. It's so important, the environmental scanning and the SWOT analysis are. We identify opportunities. Then we do some type of ideation process or concept generation. Then step 3, evaluate our concepts. Step 4, you go into developing the product and testing the product, doing the pilot testing. And then step 5 is the commercialization or the launch process. So from experience and from collaboration with a lot of procurement professionals, a lot of times we're not part of stage 1 and we're not part of stage 2. And then we asked to bring in some materials, some samples because we want to test something. And it's always like a lot of times like a secret what they want to test. No, just get us all the raw materials and that's all we need. When we need you, we'll let you know. And then when it goes into full scale development later on in these stages, then by the way, this is a new product that we're going to launch, and you need this is the amount of units that we're going to produce as per the master production schedule, and you need to make sure that you could ensure adequate supply at the right cost structure. So the better we understand these processes and we assure and we earn that respect to be involved early, the better off we would be and more effective we would be as procurement professionals. Because once we get into the idea, the concept of concept generation, concept evaluation, we could put in our technical expertise as an advice as procurement professionals, as it relates to the availability of the raw materials and the quality and the consistent supply, reliable supply of the raw materials, we could involve that in the ideation process early before key decisions are made. So it's very important that we understand this product development process and product reengineering processes, and that we are involved early in the early stages. We involve early and continuously throughout the whole the whole spectrum. And this is where, again, us as procurement professionals in 2019 taking the initiative to form a commodity team, because the commodity team will be the same folks who will be involved in product development, right? The manufacturing manager is going to be the R&D, the marketing, the sales function, and of course the logistics functions, and of course the finance folks. So we have to be involved and engaged early and throughout the product development processes. So anyone who needs to take a look at this framework and need any advice, let me know, because a lot of times I've seen designs made towards materials that are scarce. And the thing is, the people who make those decisions, they don't know. We know. So we have to pull out the early warning signs and say, hey, you want to make a product with XYZ materials. Those materials are scarce, or the regions of the world where have the traditionally the most reliable supply source, they have some type of political turmoil, or it looks like there may be a political situation there. How do you know that? By doing the environmental scanning continuously. It's very, very important that, again, our job is to support operations by assuring a steady supply of the critical inputs and raw materials. I'm going to open the floor. We're a little over time, but I want to open the floor to any Q&A. If you have any questions, if you could send me in the chat box, I'll appreciate it over what we have discussed. And the whole idea is to be very, very strategic. How could we be strategic? Understanding that our organizations have limited resources, limited time to do things. How could we get more done with less? How could we, as a procurement function, if we do what I say here and we leverage a lot of these things, understand innovation, understanding value. Yes, this is a caveat now. I'll leave you all with the caveats. Understand value. What is value? According to lean manufacturing and lean practitioners, value has three components, or value add has three components. One, the customer is willing to pay. Two, activities are done right the first time. And three, there's a physical transformation from one stage to the next. So value add or value is a product or service is done right the first time. A product or service, the customer is willing to pay for it. And there's a physical transformation from one step to the next. So if we as procurement professionals understand value and the concept of value, that things are done right the first time, the customer is willing to pay for it, and there's a transformation from one stage to the next, and we understand all of those three parameters, and we measure this, we use this as a lens, right? How well are our suppliers doing things? To what degree are our suppliers doing things right the first time, sending us what we need, when we need, all the time, right? We don't have rework. Hey, I order X, you send me Y. I order 10, you send me 5. I order 5, you send me 10. So, to what degree our suppliers are capable to do things right the first time? To what extent are we as procurement professionals doing things right the first time we touch it? Or our activities I'm talking about. So it's done right the first time. And really, our customers, are they really willing to pay for our rework if they only knew if we have any rework and mess in our processes? Are they willing to pay for that if they find that out? And there's a transformation from one stage to the next. Once we understand, make it our business to understand those stages and how they affect cost and the total cost of ownership, then we'll be better at what we do. So we understand value and we'll be a value-driven organization that's based on return on investment. I see I had a question from this presentation. I've learned that I act more reactive rather than strategic. My job is purchasing manager, and I am generally not included in stage 1 and stage 2 of the process. Any first step generation. Well, who is this? Ingrid. Oh my God, Ingrid. Well, welcome to the club. So, and this is Ingrid, and to everyone, Ingrid says that she is forced to be more of a reactive than a strategic buyer. And in terms of the stage gate methodology here, the new product development process, she's rarely involved in stage 1 and stage 2. We see it right here, stage 1 and stage 2, right? I guess she, after the fact, after, key decisions are made, you see, key decisions. And this speaks volumes of the respect that the procurement function is given in organizations, right? So we have to earn that respect by being strategic thinkers. We have to earn that respect by being world-class collaborators, right? So to answer your question, Ingrid, the first step, commodity team. You could call it, give it a fancy term that sits well with your organization, but I think commodity team, because commodity is a strong word. And you need a team around commodities. So if you all don't want to help me around commodities, well, don't complain later on, right? So commodity team, I think that's a very powerful thing and a powerful start, okay? So this way you have the buy-in, and you sell it as, yes, we want to service you all in our internal customers. So you start with the mindset of internal customers, right? Then you build your commodity team. Okay, even if it's with people that you've had traditional pain in terms of interaction with, hey, put them on the team, right? And get the buy-in from them. Once you do that, then automatically, right, you're going to sit at stage 1, right? So you can make that part of the agreement. You honor them and you listen to them, and you expect that to be reciprocated. So a commodity team is a very, very good place to start. But if you're going to start this and to deal with all those internal politics, remember I said, do the internal assessment. Remember, part of the think process is internal and external assessments. So internal SWOT, internal, your department, and external, the organization. Internal environmental scan. And what environmental I mean, right now it's in here, it's in Connecticut, in the USA, it's cold and it's wet. So I scan my environment. So what do I need to navigate outside? I need an umbrella, right? I need a jacket. Same thing with your organization. You do the procurement function and your organizations. Understand your environment and your landscape. So this way you know how to navigate. You know where all the landmines are, right? You know where all of the, people who play video games, you know where all the life packs are. You need to understand this as procurement professionals. So, again, assess yourselves. Lead, that's where you start, right? Lead, and remember, mind, body, spirit. On the spirit side is to build credibility. You build a commodity team, and you stick to your word, and you align yourselves strategically, you will build credibility, right? And if you build credibility and you understand the interests of the other functions, right? So I'm telling you where to start. Understand their interests. It might not always, traditionally, maybe their interests clashed with your interests. We sit as professionals and we figure out, hey, one organization, one team, very easy to say. We have to negotiate. We're masters of negotiation, man. Negotiate those interests into a win-win internal situation. This way we strengthen yourselves internally. And you put you front and center at stage one with any new product that's coming out. And really, every few years, organizations re-engineer to some degree their product line. Think about it, right? So you're going to have this here would also, this platform here would also go for the re-engineering processes as well, right? New ideas, right? You look for the opportunity while you study, you do the market analysis, stage one, okay? Then you do your ideation processes for the re-engineering of an existing product. Well, we should add this, we should take this off, right? Same framework for re-engineered products and new products. So lead, think, plan, act strategically. Lead strategically, think strategically, plan strategically, and act strategically. If you're going to plan something and you're going to act on something, think about exponential impact. So where do we start? 80-20 rule, my friend. The 80-20 rule, okay? With the understanding that in our environment, we're talking about environment. The supply chain swims in an environment. The supply chain is a system. You see, I'm a systems thinker. The supply chain swims in a system that exists in an environment. So the better we become masters of environmental scanning. If you all need help, please, you know where to find me. I can help you all with these processes. I've been doing this for years. Okay? So understand our environments. Okay? And to the 80-20 rule, in our environment, 20% of the factors, and the 80-20 rule is a power law, meaning that variables have exponential impact on other variables, right? So 20% of the parameters or variables in our environments, right, create 80% of the impact on our organizations, positive or negative. And to hone in and to understand what are those 20%. We want to talk about 2019 and onward to be strategic thinkers and strategic actors and strategic planners and strategic leaders. Focus on the 80-20, right? And, don't get caught up in the insignificant many because it's easy. It's somebody's pet peeve. It's easy for me to do. No, be strong, tenacious leaders. 80-20 rule. So if you touch that 20%, you could open up 80% of the capability in your supply chain. Think about that. And I give you all the last caveat, because I know you all have to go. The 450 rule is also a power law. And the 450 rule is a variation of the 80-20 rule. So 4% of the factors and variables in your supply chain, in your procurement function, in your organization, have 50% of the impact on your organization. Again, or another way of saying it is 4% of your product line would generate 50% of your sales. 20% of your product line generate 80% of your sales. The 450 is a variation of the 80-20 rule. If you really want to be strategic in 2019, learn how to laser focus on those 4%. So 4% of the raw materials that you procure drive 50% of your spend profile, of your spend. 4% of the products and the raw materials and the inputs that you procure drive 50% of the complexity and headaches, right? 4%, 450. Focus there first. focus there first. This is what they call laser focus. Then after you deal with the 450, right, 4%, right, from the 20%, now you have 16% remaining, correct? That 16% is going to give you 30%, right? I don't want to confuse you all. So 80, so 20% for 80, 4% for 50, correct? So that means there's 16% for 30. So focus on the 450 first in all matters for 2019. In all matters across the board, 450, identify them. I've done this for years with spend profiles and it blew my mind. I saw 450 patterns or close to 450 patterns, right? And then the next step, deal with 1630. That's phase 2. And then phase 3, delegate what I call mop-up operations. You delegate those. You delegate those to a very junior buyer who needs to get some experience, right? With your purchasing manager, my dear Ingrid, right? Be strategic. 450, 1630, delegate the other stuff. If you want to be really strategic and not stressed out and leverage your time and your resources effectively, 450 first. I hope that answers your question. Can I print off the PowerPoint? Absolutely. 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 And then don't forget SIPOC. Don't forget SIPOC. Remember, SIPOC. Suppliers, assess them, right? Assess them, qualify them, make sure you have robust qualification processes. And after you qualify them, they're great. Okay, maintain their capability by continuously what? Continuously evaluating their performance, right? Assess, of course, if you have good suppliers giving good inputs, high quality inputs, make sure they're on time, make sure the cost structure stays the same or reasonably the same. Okay, so they're delivered on time, consistently, in the right quantities. Okay, make this your mandate. Make sure that they give you what you want, when you want, how you want it, right? If possible, help and understand your conversion processes or your manufacturing process in the SIPOC. Make sure you understand them. This is the year you're really going to understand your conversion processes. You're not just the person who just orders stuff. Make sure you understand those things so you understand the nuance. And you make it your business to go out of your way to let your manufacturing managers know that you really want to understand them. And they will in turn want to understand you and to collaborate with you. Make sure you understand your outputs, the products that your company manufactures or the services that they deliver. Make sure you understand them as per the customer requirements. Make sure you understand your customers, the requirements and the specifications, because these would affect what you'll be held accountable for, and these will affect how you do your job. SIPOC, think systems, think SIPOC, think environments, think continuous scanning of your environments, not a one-year thing. Continuously scan your environments and be aware and be agile and be open-minded. No problem. What you could do, Mark, shoot us an email and we would email the slide to you. But this framework here, the Product Development and Management Association is the Harvard for product development and innovation. Go to their website, please. Go to their website. Okay, really understand this printout here. Things like PIC, product innovation charters, and things like that. Make sure you understand them well. This entire framework, right? You make sure you understand your organization's life cycle management strategy, the growth, the decline, the maturity of your industry. Make sure you study these things well. Make sure you understand how your organization pipelines products, the product portfolio management processes. Make sure you understand, or if they have, well, actually you do have one, but if it's not documented, how could you lead the way on a high level, formulating these frameworks? Because the better these frameworks are articulated and defined in the organizations, the better you all will be at your functions and your jobs. Believe me, right? So the last caveat, then I have to go, is how could we leverage our suppliers for innovation? How could we leverage the capabilities of the process capability, the innovative capabilities of our organizations? How could we leverage those assets into our organization? And how could we leverage what we do well and understand the gaps of our suppliers and help them, and you have that transfer of capability and that transfer of knowledge, right? Also, this is going upstream. So for 2019, let us go upstream and help. And let us go downstream to our suppliers, to our customers, right? How could we help them improve the demand-supply dynamic? How could we help them improve their processes? Because if their processes are robust, then you would have less shocks in the supply chain. The more robust and world-class a customer process is, the less shocks you will have in your supply chain. So think for 2019, think and act. Big picture with capability for detail. Think and act value stream and value chain. Think and act SIPOC. Think to your left, think to your right. Think upstream and downstream and go upstream. Don't just think it. Go and act upstream and act downstream and collaborate. The organizations that are best in supply chains and procurement are those that are best collaborative. Think blockchain. Blockchain brings a degree of visibility and transparency to supply chain transactions. So think this: how could we incorporate elements of blockchain? Think cybersecurity. For 2019, give a hard look at where could our suppliers, right? Don't just say, oh, there's IT function. No. You brought the suppliers in, or we bring the suppliers in. It's not an IT thing. That's your thing. That's our thing. So think cybersecurity and make sure that our suppliers have, some type of cybersecurity strategy, and think about us internally, right? What are do an assessment? What are our gaps? And think about the customers, because your customers could compromise you or us. So think cybersecurity across the value chain for 2019. So you have to think blockchain. We're thinking cybersecurity. I'm working on a cybersecurity supply chain course, by the way. Think about artificial intelligence, how this would impact, so let's be visionary leaders. How would the future in the procurement space, in the supply chain space, be impacted by AI, artificial intelligence, and what could we do? What could we test? Or what could we experiment? How could we innovate? How could we be the innovators? And robotics. So the whole idea of this is we no longer want to think that we are the ones who just buy stuff and spend money. We're the necessary evil. We're a cost center. Those are the folks over there who buy this. They spend up all the money. No. How could we bring value and create value for our organizations? How could we, again, bring innovation to our organizations by leveraging our suppliers, leveraging outside assets? How could we be part of that? This PDMA blueprint gives you all a critical high-level framework on where to start. And go to the PDMA website. Awesome organization. Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Cherry. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you all for attending. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. So please let us be of those who hear and react. So I put it out there that I could help. Just I'm a phone call or email away. Um, you could email. I'm gonna type that in for you. All right. So for the slides, you would email Monica. Um, hold on, just give me 1 second. Or you could just email me, right? So D Millington at nextlevelpurchasing.com. Okay, so I'm going to stay on the line a little bit. If anybody who has any further questions, I'm happy you all enjoyed the webinar. So I'm going to be here for a little bit. I normally do that. I work with indirect materials, 90% of it is services. Do you see it also fits under these ideas? So it's service oriented. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. You know, when we think about things like suppliers inputs to a service could be information, right? uh, Inputs to a service could be some recipe of some sort. So these tools and methodologies go well for the service sector and for the manufacturing sector. So absolutely. If you need any type of advice or help in translating a lot of this stuff to the service sector, let me know. I have experience in both, extensive experience in both dimensions, how and when to translate certain things to the service environment as well as to the manufacturing environment. Absolutely. Many companies, like in the US, in banking and stuff like that, they use these methodologies as well. Yes, so if you need any help there, just let me know. Oh, commodity group. Yes, Ingrid, have you taken 14 purchasing best practices? Have you taken that course? Because that's one of the best practices, developing a commodity team. If you need any help with that, you know, and I can help you with that. And the whole idea is to keep it simple. Where do I access that course? You go to our website, 14 purchasing best practices. If you're going to do that and you're thinking about deploying best practices in your organization, you need help, just, you know, advice or mentorship, just let me know. That's why we are here. Just let me know. But that's an awesome course. Yeah, 14 purchasing best practices, and do some more research on best practice. They're not only 14, there are many, but those are the ones that we decided to focus on. Have a great day, Ingrid. So I'm going to be here for a little bit if anybody has any other questions. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. You're welcome. You're welcome, Lena. Do I email? Sorry, do I email to get the slides? Yeah, just email me and I'll get the slides to you. Not a problem. I'm still here. If any other questions that you may have. Okay, I'm going to shut the recording.